Ulysses S Grant, America's 18th president, spent much of his boyhood in Georgetown, Ohio. His boyhood home still stands and has been recently refurbished by the Ohio Historical Society to reflect the way it was when Ulysses lived there.
This was the frontier. There were only about 20 houses in town, but it was deemed the county seat, so that's why Jesse and Hannah moved here with baby Ulysses in 1823.
The Ohio Historical Society has restored the interior of the home to what it believes it looked like when Ulysses lived there.
It was furnished or finished very nicely, much nicer than you might suppose for a place that was kind of on the frontier like Georgetown. There was evidence of wallpapers, evidence of wall-to-wall carpet.
The previous owner, John Rutvin, tells the story of why he and his wife Judy purchased the property and why he gave it to the state of Ohio.
The state of Ohio was going to tear this building down with no regard to the history of it and build a welfare house here. Well, that did it to Judy. She said, we can't let that disappear. She said, John, let's buy this place. So we bought it. Our gift to the state of Ohio was from the heart and knowing full well that it eventually would be in the hands of the American people, and a great celebration for the life of Ulysses S. Grant to save his boyhood home and then have it restored in the proper manner.
The Historical Society brought in several artisans to restore the home to the look and feel of what Ulysses' father Jesse built back in the 1800s.
Well, certainly the formal parlor and the entry hall would have been the fanciest rooms in the house. They would have spent the most money in those rooms. But other rooms were important. We think the master bedroom would have also had wall-to-wall carpet, a lesser grade carpet. It would have had wallpaper. Not as nice of paper, not as expensive paper as you might have in the parlor. And the bedroom at the top of the stairs we think may have been used as a guest bedroom. So the wallpaper in there, we allowed ourselves to use something a little more luxurious on. But we tried to really restrict our choices to the middle to low range because that's where we think Jesse would have been economically.
The wallpapering process was done in a way to preserve the paper for years to come and to simulate the way papering would have looked in the period.
We put up a liner paper, an acid-free liner paper first, and the reason for that was it will allow the dyes in the paper to last longer than if they were just regularly right on the walls. And the paper that we have is also done on acid-free liner paper, which Adelphi is known for their historical wallpapers. So they manufactured it very similar to the way it was manufactured back in the 1820s. In the 1820s, I don't know when the beginning and the end was, but the wallpaper was only been able to be manufactured in a certain length. So like today's, we have rolls of wallpaper. Well, back then they had sheets, and what they would do is they would glue the sheets together, overlap them and glue them together to make a roll, and then that's how they printed it. So each roll or each piece that was on the wall might have 6 or 7 joints that are horizontal. And like today, we have manufacturers that can trim the edges of the paper. Well, back then, they just printed it, and the salvage on the left and the right were left on there for, after it was shipped, that the paper hanger would trim those off with his scissors. And in doing so, you couldn't match up the seams, they were overlapped. Overlapped was the way it was done. In that process, that's how I had to do it, is I hand trimmed all the papers, both sides, left one side with about a 3/4 inch salvage, and cut the other side, the right side, with right to the edge of the paper. And from there, we could join them together, overlap them about 3/4 inch. And the adhesive that I used for all the process, even the liner paper, was wheat paste, cellulose, and a current product called 838, which is just a heavy-duty clear adhesive. So I mixed 1/3 of each one of those, and to give it a nice consistency, enough that it would allow the paper to stick to the liner paper. The wheat paste and the cellulose came from Bob Kelly in Lee, Massachusetts, who is a very well-known paper hanger in the country. So I wanted to follow the process that was somewhat historically done the way it was done back there.
An interesting discovery and conversion happened on some of the doors of the house. It was discovered that Jesse Grant had the doors treated with a faux grain process, and so those doors were restored as well. Faux grain is an imitation process done with paint to imitate more valuable woods. The stiles and railings of the doors are done to imitate mahogany, and the panels are done to imitate figured maple. It was done with different brushes and techniques and then sealed in shellac. Each of the room's window coverings was restored to what the period's design was thought to be.
In the two bedrooms, both the master bedroom and the girls' room, we decided that a little decoration would be in order, and we found a trim that looked like tatting. And so in the master bedroom, there's the green tatting against that flat treatment of the side panels. And that's unusual because we think today that things have to be gathered, but back then they were economizing on fabrics. And so we did it according to the style back then.
The entryway of the home was an important part of the project. The goal of the floor cloth was to tie all patterns, tones, and colors together with the adjoining room and staircase. It was discussed in detail historical references and more about Jesse Grant than Ulysses, as this was the home he built. The diamonds veining were illustrated in a marble pattern in 3 or 4 colors used in the wallpaper and woven stair runner. The patterns were created with watercolor, and dry brush painting techniques were expertly applied in 4 separate steps to achieve the final look using blending, stippling, and glazing techniques. Several other details were attended to in order to bring authenticity of the period to the home.
We were involved with several things, one of which was restoring and remilling all the millwork inside the house. Another aspect we were involved with was the glazing of 14 new reproduction window sash matching the original profiles, and there were 4 original window sash associated to the building that we restored and replaced glass for those. And then finally we were involved with installing the reproduction door and window hardware.
The Ulysses S Grant Boyhood home was restored by the Ohio Historical Society using a group of historians and artisans, all with extensive backgrounds in maintaining historical authenticity. The home stands in Georgetown, Ohio, and is open as a museum for all to visit and appreciate.